Which buffoon was the biggest narcissist of 2023? In case anyone forgot, this is how it works. There will be 11 categories of buffoon throughout this event, based upon the categories in my best-selling, award-winning book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, A Field Guide to Identifying Political Buffoons, which, by the way, is available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. Cheap plug, I know, but hey, that's how we roll. Our beautiful and lovely guests will nominate buffoons for each category. Just about anyone is eligible for nomination, with the exception of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Because let's face it, if they were to be nominated, they dominate just about every category, and we can't have that now, can we? It takes a majority of our guests voting for a particular buffoon to win that category. Buffoons can win in multiple categories, and each winner goes on to compete throughout the end of the year for your vote as Buffoon of the Year. When we talk about narcissists,
yes,
basically everyone in politics is a narcissist, right? I mean, everyone there has a very high opinion of themselves. But when we talk about the
99% of them give the rest of us a bad name. That's true.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But when we talk about the narcissist in the context of my book, what I'm talking about really is this idea of a shocking lack of self-awareness. Think like Elizabeth Warren saying that she is a Native American, putting it on her paperwork, and she's like 1,024th or whatever it was, Native American. That sort of shocking lack of self-awareness is what I want to bring to light here. And I gotta be honest, it was hard finding nominees because there's so much garden variety narcissism out there that to find a real shocking lack of self-awareness was really hard to do. We could always go back to the well with George Santos, of course. Especially now in his post-expulsion grifting. I mean, he's going on, this website Cameo where you can go to a celebrity and have them make a video for a friend or something like that if you pay them for it. He's charging $500 a pop.
People are asking you to write books?
Yes.
So what else is how else are you going to raise money? I mean, you're going to have some big legal bills.
Look, right now I'm doing the Cameo thing.
My favorite TS song is definitely going to be Trouble. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. That's me. Bye.
And I have a few other prospects for employment that I'm looking at. Haven't really made a decision.
More money than he could make off those Republicans.
Any money. Listen, he needs money for some legal bills is what he needs. Another example I thought of was anytime you hear Debbie Wasserman Schultz speak, and she's on some pretty key committees like the Judiciary Committee, like the Select Committee on the Weaponization of Government, whenever you hear her speak, to me, first of all, I just zone out. But she has this prepared speech normally, and she doesn't pay attention to what the people she's supposed to be questioning are actually saying. There was a moment with Matt Taibbi and I forget the other reporter's name right now. Michael Schellenberger, when she was questioning them and basically was trying to mischaracterize them in her speech, and they were answering like, that's not the truth here, and she was just basically talking over them.
Journalists should avoid accepting spoon-fed, cherry-picked information if it's likely to be slanted, incomplete, or designed to reach a foregone, easily disputed, or invalid conclusion. Would you agree with that?
I think it depends.
Really? You wouldn't agree that a journalist should avoid spoon-fed, cherry-picked information if it's likely to be slanted, incomplete, or designed to reach a foregone, easily disputed, or invalid conclusion?
Congresswoman, I've done probably a dozen stories involving whistleblowers. Every reported story that I've ever done across 3 decades involves sources who have motives. Every time you do a story, you're making a balancing test between the public interest.
Reclaiming my time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I ask you this because before you became Elon Musk's hand-picked journalist, and pardon the oxymoron, you stated this on Joe Rogan's podcast about being spoon-fed information, and I quote, "I think that's true of any kind of journalism," and you'll see it behind me here. "I think that's true of any kind of journalism. Once you start getting handed things, then you've lost. They have you at that point, and you got to get out of that habit. You just can't cross that line. Do you still believe what you told Mr. Rogan? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. Now, you crossed that line with the Twitter files.
No.
Elon Musk, it's my time. Please do not interrupt. Mr. Taibbi, yes or no? Should social media companies allow rape and murder to be live streamed by terrorists on their platforms in order to create fear and incite violence?
I believe that would violate their terms of service, would it not?
So your answer is no? It should not they should not be allowed to do that?
Live stream rape and murder? No,
Right.
I think that would count as speech that would be prohibited under their terms of service.
Good. You do have absolutist policies, but
I do not have absolute. I do not have.
Please don't interrupt me. You have absolute. I've asked your question. You answered it. You do have absolutist policies. At least they have some limits. But I think a Homeland Security official.
With respect, Congresswoman, all journalists operate
reclaiming
under
my time.
limits.
If a Homeland Security official echoed your opinion, you would call it censorship. But I'm glad that at least you acknowledge that rape and murder should not be allowed on social media platforms. Mr. Kennedy, you're well educated. So yes or no, please. Are you aware that for centuries Jews have been scapegoated and blamed for causing illnesses like Black Plague and more recently COVID?
I am. Those are known as blood libel, and they are one of the worst and most disturbing parts of human history.
Good. I'm glad to know that. Of course, that you acknowledge that. Of course, it's true and well documented that this pernicious form of anti-Semitism led to centuries of discrimination, even horrific pogroms and massacres, and it still fuels deadly violence today. Yet last week, you floated a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was bioengineered to target Caucasians and Black people, but to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. Mr. Kennedy, your bizarre, unproven claim echoes that same historic slander of labeling Jews and Chinese people as a race, and that Jews, and in this case Chinese people, somehow managed to avoid a deadly illness that targets other groups for death. You do see that, yes or no?
You're misstating.
No. I quoted what you said earlier, and it is directly what you said. So just ask me yes or no.
I was describing an NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic scientists.
Reclaiming my time. You did not reference reclaiming my
published
time.
in USC Medical,
Chairman,
which is one.
The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked me a question.
Reclaiming.
Allow me to answer my question.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like about 10 seconds back.
You are slandering me incorrectly. You're saying is dishonest.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Florida.
Defend myself.
That's really the best that I can come up with in examining a lot of the news from the year. I'm hoping you guys have some better examples than that, maybe, that you can think of. And I'll let anybody jump in who thinks so.
Well, like I said,
Sharon.
Lauren Boebert is the one that I think is not
There we go.
self-aware. You said she was a hot mess, but I think she just
leave her alone.
Flashback.
Gene, she may be a hot mess, but she's my hot mess, all right? She's my hot mess. And with that, if I wasn't a married man, I would love to have been in that movie theater seat next to her. So I'm going to overlook some. She's a really fine-looking lady. I mean, she really is. As I said, she may be a hot mess. She should be my hot mess. Okay? So I'll just leave it at that.
I asked for it.
End of flashback.
I think she really doesn't know.
What's her girlfriend?
She said, "Do you know who I am?" I think she doesn't know who she is, because no self-respecting congresswoman would go into a theater and do, it's just, you're very conscious of everything that you do in public. You're in public life. You are held accountable for everything, not just the words you speak, but the things you do. I have this little thing I have to say. I have this little thing on my head.
My hair! Look at my hair! She ruined my hair!
Stop. Nobody noticed it.
We were laughing about before the show. Well, the reason that I was concerned is because I could be held accountable for that as a public figure. And that's a small thing. Narcissists think they can get away with most anything because everybody loves them, right? I love myself. You love me. Everybody loves me.
Everybody loves me.
And so they're going to excuse my behavior. They're going to excuse what I say. They're going to excuse everything about me because I'm just wonderful. And that's what I get from Lauren Boebert's activity, is that she's just too wonderful to be criticized.
And Sharron is genuinely wonderful, by the way. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Sharron Angle, you always have so much going on besides co-hosting shows on AUN TV and, local politics as well. Tell everybody what you've been up to recently.
Well, I guess the most recent thing was my trip to Israel. I was there for 6 weeks harvesting grapes, and on the 7th of October, I got a phone call from Rick Trader, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm sleeping." And he said, "You're under attack."
Oh my goodness, you were there?
I was there.
Holy shit.
Where exactly were you?
I was in Samaria, in a little town called Harbah, just above Nablus. Shechem was in the valley just right next to us. And I, of course, keep tabs on that now to know what's going on there as they go into Nablus and clear that out, because we saw it. We saw those refugee camps full of 20 terrorist organizations. We saw the little town of Hawara, where you couldn't go through if you weren't in an armored bus, because somebody might step out into the street and start firing their gun at you. And guns are not legal for these folks to have, but they certainly have them. So anyway, it was a very instructive trip for me in so many different ways, but it made me very pro-Israel. I saw Hamas up close and personal, and I can tell you there is nothing salvageable there. There's nothing good there.
Don't you need more context?
No,
I
got personal context.
That's all the context you need. I understand.
Right. Sharron, how long did it take you to get back to the States, though? Were you delayed in coming back? Because I know that my employer, who I work with, he was in Jerusalem when this happened. I have another friend who's a coworker whose son is just joined the military there. He just recently moved to Israel to join the military there. How long were you delayed in getting out? Did you have to go through Dubai?
Well, it's an interesting story. I was delayed. We were scheduled to leave on a Tuesday. We actually left on a Friday. We were told we were going to the airport in an armored bus after all of the flights had been canceled. And they said, "We're taking you there." I said, "Well, we don't have a flight going out. I really don't like to go to the airport because that's a main target, isn't it?" And they said, "Well, your embassy will be there and they'll help you." So we went to the temporary embassy. She told us that she could get us to Romania for $400.
That doesn't help at all. How is that helping?
And in the meantime, I went down to talk with some friends of mine from Canada and Australia that were flying out. Their embassy said, "We'll take you for free, and we'll take the Americans too." And so that's really how I got out of Israel, was on with the Canadian Air Force. And I'll tell you, one of their personnel, Vivian, she was the one that said, "What are you going to do for my friend Sharron?" And they got me out, and I'll forever be grateful to the Canadian Air Force for that.
As I sit here and as I'm trying to think about this idea of narcissism, I know we're thinking about the whole idea of the bella figura, the very bright and shiny image that people have. But another type of narcissism that I was thinking about as you were talking, Sharron, and I'll put this out to you, George. What about the narcissism of John Fetterman? To say that he can properly conduct himself within the halls of Congress, not only wearing the hoodie and the shorts and thinking that he can do that because, his crap don't stink and he should be able to get away with that, but also that he is capable enough in his present medical condition. I hope he's doing well. I sincerely do. But to think that he could operate at a level that is necessary for a member of the Senate and to have that sort of narcissism and that sort of arrogance, what do you think about that as being the narcissist of the year? This is a clip from May of this year in the Senate Banking Committee having testimony from ex-CEOs of failed banks. Remember Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank? Remember that whole issue we had in the late spring, early summer? Well, Senator Fetterman is on that committee. And he, of course, being a senator, he's entitled to ask questions of the witnesses.
Is it staggering? Is it a staggering responsibility that the head of a bank could literally crash our economy? It's astonishing. That's like if you have, I mean, like, and they also realize is that now they have a guaranteed way to be saved by how, you know. So it's you know, isn't it appropriate that this kind of control should be more stricter?
Now, we all should remember Senator Fetterman did have a stroke, but this is how he's serving his constituency of Pennsylvania. I know he's struggling, and I know he's trying his best to do his job, but could you really glean anything from that question? I don't think the witnesses did.
Or should we just go on and start bailing and sailing whoever bank, regardless of how their conduct is?
He make a pretty compelling case in the case of him. I mean, he can barely put together a sentence. Just all kind. It was kind of embarrassing. I watching that. And there's got to have been voter fraud involved in his election, because I do not believe that even the citizens of Pennsylvania are stupid enough to elect that man. It's just kind of, I find it very hard to believe. But I guess he kind of has this sense of privilege and so forth. He can be a mayor and destroy a small town because he was a horrible mayor. And then he can move on up the ladder and be convinced that he's the man for the job. Most of us, if we failed at our last job, wouldn't think that they should hire us to be the president of the company. You know, but we'd have enough kind of self-awareness to realize it. So he clearly doesn't have much self-awareness there. But I would argue Kim Gardner is a pretty good possibility too. She, of course, is a Soros-backed DA. She's basically made St. Louis into a third world hellhole. She paid witnesses to provide testimony, and then she concealed the fact that she paid the witnesses from the defense team, you know, and then so she's corrupt beyond belief. And then she was brought up by the Missouri State Disciplinary Council, and they moved against her and so forth. And she later admitted she was, you know, made a mistake. Like,
yeah, okay. The mistake was taking nursing classes and not doing her job and planning for her exit out of that job, firing prosecutors to the point where they didn't have enough to cover basic appearances and endangering the population because murderers would be getting off on technicalities for not having people show up. And, right. You know, people that did show up would end up getting censured by the court. Absolutely, Kim Gardner is a great choice, but I do want to point out that it really is a shame, George, that you haven't gotten over your election loss to John Fetterman. I mean, it's been a year already. You should just get over it already. I'm just saying, think of the, you know, there's all these impersonators that show up in Times Square that you can take photos with, Batman and Spider-Man. You could have had a whole other career.
Yeah, I could have had another career. I could spend my time up in Times Square pretending to be a U.S. Senator.
Think about all the rubber chicken dinners you could have gone to doing a Mehmet Oz shtick. It would have been great. Yeah,
that's awesome. I can't believe I came that close. I missed out.
That much. Rick, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I have another nominee for this category. And Gene, I'm gonna use your words. You know, you talk about impersonators. You talk about a bright and shiny image of oneself. You talk about a lacking shocking lack of self-awareness. Gene, those are your words, and I think those words describe Gavin Newsom. I think those words describe Gavin Newsom. Here is a failed governor of a failing state, and irregardless of him debating DeSantis and saying neither one of us are going to be the nominee, trust me, Gruesome Newsom wants to be the nominee. And when he was debating Santos, all the things he was saying, all the platitudes, how wonderful California is. Everyone in California is looking at each other and going, huh? Is he talking about California? Gavin Newsom has got to be, Gene Berardelli, Gavin Newsom has got to be in this category. Using your own words to make the case.
I'm with you. I'm with you on it. Absolutely. 100%. I am so with you on this. You might have even convinced me to vote for him with that impassioned speech. I was getting a little nervous. I thought he was about to say, Gene Berardelli, you're the narcissist of the year. But hey, listen, this turned out great. We have so many nominees. John Fetterman, Lauren Boebert, Gavin Newsom, Kim Gardner, Debbie Wasserman.
Great category.
My goodness. It really was a year for narcissists. I must have had a blind spot to it. Color me a buffoon for not putting these other people in. So let's get to it. Now that I've shot my credibility in picking nominees, and you guys did so much better than me, we'll start with George. Do you have do you want to narrow down the field, or do you want to just outright vote for someone?
I think I can vote for somebody. Actually, I hadn't thought of, but Rick did such a good job of selling Gavin Newsom. And I'm thinking to myself, that's pretty compelling. I mean, Gavin Newsom is perhaps the world's biggest airhead. He's a moron. He's not even a bright man. But yet, when you listen to him talk, he lies with such confidence and such kind of gusto. So he is definitely a narcissist of epic proportions. Sadly, the problem is there's so many others who also have pretty sizable proportions that sometimes hard to tell bigger. But Rick did a good job of arguing for Gavin, and so
you with it?
Unless someone, I hope no one confuses this vote for meaning I'm prepared to support Gavin Newsom for anything else. Because I'm not, but I will support him for being a narcissist.
All right. Sharron?
I thought I was set with Lauren Boebert. I thought I was, and then you made the compelling case for Fetterman or Fetterwoman.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm good. Okay. But I have to go with almost my it is my neighboring state. I was going to say my native state, California, poor California, and they're suffering not only with Gavin Newsom but being her nephew, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, it's just kind of a combo that you can't hardly beat there. Because Nancy Pelosi obviously could get this award herself. But I'm going to go with Gavin Newsom.
There are so many. I mean, you think about California, it is an all-star lineup of narcissists between Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom.
Well, they have Hollywood. I guess that's what makes the difference.
Right?
There's so many narcissists in California. I mean, it is Hollywood, right? I mean, think of all the social justice warriors in Hollywood that are narcissists themselves. It is the state of narcissism. And just to throw my hat towards Gavin Newsom as well, Rick, you're going to make it unanimous here. Gavin Newsom's totally brain-dead move of cleaning up San Francisco, all the crap and all the stuff in the streets, because representatives for China were coming, but to show that, hey, look how beautiful California is, when they're literally picking up the SHIT off the ground for a communist. He should have known then that, hey, maybe things aren't going so great around this state. So Gavin Newsom, thanks to Rick Trader, is the Narcissist of the Year for 2023. Coming out with the victory, Rick. Look at you. What a world we're in when everybody agrees with Rick Trader.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.